Hey guys, welcome to the Global Climate Podcast. I'm your host, Nikhil, Sunil, and today we are fortunate to be joined by two special guests. Honorary Doctorate Professor, Mrs. Debbie Lee, who works at the University of California, Riverside, as well as State Specialist, Ms. Rivera, who studies the control and damage effects of any global climate destruction. Now, Ms. Lee, you and I were talking before the break about how these natural disasters are related to global warming and how if we're not careful enough, they can really be a prevalent issue in the coming years. Just talk more about that.
Yes, so basically global warming has been a prevalent issue for years now and actually even like centuries now. But the thing is right now it's been getting way worse. So I'd just like to talk about how there has been many natural disasters happening because of global warming. Those natural disasters include hurricanes, cyclones, storms, floods, and etc. You've all seen it before on the news, but I'd like to specifically talk about hurricanes. In 2005, it was the most active season in hurricanes in recorded history ever. It was estimated for about 4,000 deaths and recorded damages of about $160 billion. Around 28 tropical storms did occur, and it recorded around 15 strength into hurricanes, which are called tropical cyclones. 3 Category 5, which is like the strongest category of hurricanes, occurred. Hurricane Katrina formed on August 23, 2005, and we had coastline hurricanes in the U.S. history, which were called Harvey, wreaking havoc along the Gulf Coast from Louisiana to Atlanta, and devastating New Orleans. Also among the most deadliest hurricanes in U.S. history ever.
Wow, I mean, when you say billions and billions of dollars, it just automatically gets me to think about, what we can do to prevent that and sort of how can we as a society, specifically a scientific community, respond to those effects. And I think that's why we have you, Ms. Rivera. You're very well honed in on specific solutions when it comes to these hurricanes, and you're very well informed about what these effects are. And seeing that, Ms. Lee talked about billions of dollars, right? That must be a huge impediment on budget spending when it comes to hurricanes and whatnot. So for you, what specifically do you think are the effects of a mass scale global climate consequence, as Ms. Lee was alluding to? What specifically do you see that as?
So some of the effects, or some of the most important or dangerous effects that the hurricanes have, is that there is a frequent and like a great intensity of extreme weather events that will change. So for example, frost will start to decrease and heat waves will continue to increase, as we have all seen and experienced. There's also more, so with individual storms, there is more severe downpours and more frequent floodings due to the amount of water vapor that the earth or the atmosphere itself can hold.
Wow, Category 5, immediately when I think of that, it's just very frightening, and the effects of that must have been monstrous on a global scale. But I know when it comes to Category 5 hurricanes, you and I were sort of discussing this before the break. What exactly, do we have any more of those coming up, or what are they like?
Well, like I said, 2005 was the most active recorded history of hurricanes. However, we did have a very powerful hurricane in 2012 called Hurricane Sandy. It was the largest hurricane to form in the Atlantic ever. But what made Hurricane Sandy so powerful? It merged with an extratropical wintertime cyclone, which means the climate change raised along the eastern coast of the U.S., meaning that 2 storms surged together, making the impacts even worse. And to include, there has been more of a recent trend towards an increase of intense hurricanes in certain ocean basins, which is basically the tropical Atlantic, and these trends closely mirror warming trends. With the all of this global warming is likely to fuel more intense hurricanes with stronger, astounding winds. Combination of sea level rise could present a double whammy, which is essentially the 2 storms surging, which is basically making a damaging storm surge.
A damaging storm surge. Well, DSS. Those 3 words are not the words I want to hear right now. But like I said, the sort of fear that we have about these Category 5 hurricanes, any natural disaster, specifically hurricanes though, Ms. Rivera, in terms of what we can do, in terms of human collective action, what do you think is the best approach moving forward?
So I do want to say that we have to act really fast because these changes, although they are very like particular to the region you live in, the more warming there is, there will be more pronounced changes. So I do feel like we have to act fast. And there's multiple ways in which we can act, and we've talked about it before the break.
Yeah, I mean, like Miss Lee was telling me about how the emissions level are rising at an exponential amount. I mean, there's so many things that we're not aware of, specifically like greenhouse emissions and sort of the erosion of our railroads, physical infrastructure, institutions. It's very important that we take people like Mrs. Lee, we take people like Mrs. Yu, Ms. Rivera, and sort of take that knowledge and sort of advice, more so than just advice, but we take it as a sort of a critical step to not only saving our Earth, but I mean saving the future generations to come. So I'd hate to leave it on a negative note, but you heard him, guys. It's time to act now. So live from the Global Climate Podcast, I'm Nikhil, Sunil.
I'm Debbie Lee.
And I'm Cecilia, Rivera.
And we want to thank you guys
for watching.
and act now.